Who would go from being a CPA to the guru of wireless in motorsports to a super fast and extremely well-known person in the paddock? Let's throw the green flag on this episode. Well, I am excited to welcome Eric Kaul into the Atomic Autosports studio for another episode of Late to Grid podcast. Eric, thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I want to tell listeners a little bit about how we connected, and we're going to talk about your business later in the show, but it's important, I think, to tell the listeners that Eric and I originally had this scheduled for over a year ago, and the morning that we were supposed to record, Eric texts me and says, I have a client that's having an issue. I have to take care of it. We'll record later. That is Eric's commitment to people. I love that. And Eric, you and I first got connected virtually through Facebook. You're all over Facebook. You run some
just a tiny bit.
Just a tiny bit. You've got some pages that help racers in a few different areas. So we'll talk about that. But first off, thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I made sure not to schedule anything remotely close to this podcast.
No, that's awesome. It's great to have you here. We really appreciate what you do for the motorsports community and racers individually. We'll dive into some of that. But I always like to start with how you first got into this. And you were in a new town. You had a BMW. You were trying to meet people. And a gentleman named Eric dragged you to an autocross. Tell us more about that.
Well, what's interesting, a guy named Mark dragged me to an autocross, and I met, and granted, Eric, the other guy, Eric, comes in later into the picture, but Mark was the one that said, like, you've got a cool car. Have you ever thought about driving on the racetrack? And I'm like, oh my God, like, I didn't realize I could do that. And so we scheduled the autocross, and I didn't know what I was getting into. And it was the first experience of like, oh my God, I can drive my car like this. Like, this is what I've been driving illegally on the highways. Now I can do it in a closed environment with a lot of like-minded enthusiasts. And what I loved about it was a new thing for me. I didn't know what I didn't know. And there were so many helpful people that were saying, hey, you've got a BMW, we're going to show you how to drive it. And so awesome. that is how that started.
And that first autocross, there were a lot of welcoming people there. I think that's what sold you on the sport, that, hey, this is a place I want to hang out.
Seriously. I mean, there was this wonderful guy named Mark Schnorr, really tall guy. You know, he had like a Texas personality, even though he was from Massachusetts. He had the E36 M3 that I loved and wanted to buy one day. I gravitated towards him, and I didn't come with a BMW. I actually came with, what did I come with?
Infinity, if I remember.
That's right. I came with an Infinity, and he didn't care that I had an Infinity. He was like, don't worry. He's like, we'll get you into a BMW soon enough. And after that first event, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go out and buy a BMW.
Now, you said Mark was very tall. You are very tall. Was he taller than you?
No, he's not taller than me. But, you know, when I'm sitting in a car looking up at a guy, he's super tall. I'm like, oh, my God, this guy's amazing. And he didn't even care. Like, he didn't care what I looked like. He didn't care what I sounded like. He didn't care that I was not from Massachusetts. Like, he was just happy that I came to the event and wanted to share. And I just wanted to be in his orbit. He was the coolest guy. Still is the coolest guy. Lives down in Texas. Everybody that knows him loves him. Just a great guy. And this is 19 years later, he's the same person and I'm the same person.
That's wonderful. So after that first autocross, tell us about your motorsports journey. What did you end up doing after that, and how did you grow within the sport?
Absolutely. So I started with autocross. I did it like once a year. Didn't want to break the car that I had, even though I loved that community. I was working as an accountant, as a CPA, and I was torn between, I'm newly married. I am working a high stress job, traveling around the country. And then I have this pull at me to go, kind of wanted to go drive my BMW. Because at that point, I bought a 97 E36 328 IS. sorry, I bought a 2003 540 M Sport, and I was like, oh my God, I want to go drive this car and have tons of fun. The journey really started with spending time at the BMW CCA events locally, meeting some really great people, and just listening to people and finding out what they did. And a lot of people are like, I've got this cool BMW, but I feel like I'm not driving it enough. I feel like there's more to be had. I'm like, oh my God, I've done autocross before. And so we would rope them into autocross and kind of build that autocross community. Doing that, I found high performance driver education events with the Boston chapter and the nearby White Mountain chapter. We went up to New Hampshire Motor Speedway. I finally learned how to drive my car on the racetrack. And just as easily as I found people at autocross, I found people at the track that just were so happy that you came. They wanted you to experience this camaraderie. And that's really why I stayed. And I just kept on doing events and events and events. And I really think that I wasn't the best driver, but I came back because it was a community that I felt welcomed at. It didn't matter that I was a Yankees fan in Boston Red Sox territory.
The common bond there was motorsports and getting on track and getting better.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in, if you're not trying to continually educate yourself and learn, that you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're actually going backwards. And so the beauty of a high performance driver education was that there was this ladder to get better. Group A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I wanted to climb that ladder because after that, there was either instructing or racing. And both of those were intriguing to me. But, I wanted to get into racing because I saw these cool guys. One of the first guys that I wanted to be like was a guy named Eric Heinrich. And Eric Heinrich is kind of the one that put the bug in my ear that you can actually go wheel-to-wheel racing. He lived in the next town over. He had a beautiful E30 M3 with Gulf livery. I'm sure many of people have seen it. It's been all over Grassroots Motorsport magazine. He's an SCCA racer. He's a BMW CCA racer. He's just everywhere. And I was like, this guy lives not one town over. Like, I want to be him. I want to drive the car that he drives. I want to race against him. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And he became my mentor from that respect. 2013, I was slated to take the BMW Club Race School at Watkins Glen. A situation happened at my work where they said, like, hey, we feel like you're too focused on motorsports and not focused on your job. And so that kind of led me off the path towards racing. And I never got to race in 2013.
Oh.
But
did you get
we scratched that itch several years later.
Yeah, let's talk about that first race experience. Where was it, and what series were you racing in?
So the now defunct pit race is where I first did club race school with BMW Car Club. And that was probably 5 years ago. And what was cool about it was they were doing it in conjunction with American Endurance Racing. There was a pit race 2-day event there, and they said, hey, if you do club race school, you can put that into motion immediately and go race. And so that's exactly what I did. I was like, my goal here is to pass, which I did. I can't say that for everyone because I don't pass everyone. You actually have to show that you have the ability to race. And then on top of that, then I rented a seat in someone's car, someone's BMW, and then I had a chance to do 2 stints in an AER race. And it was just, oh my God, I'm hooked.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about getting ready for the school.
Absolutely.
So was it all the HPDE events that helped get you there, or was there some other preparation that you think went into successfully passing and being able to race?
So 2021 is when I did the club race school. 2013 is when I stopped doing HPD events as students. So there was an 8-year gap. But during that 8-year gap, I had been an instructor, and I had done time trialing with NASA. But really, from 2013 to 2021, my focus was primarily open lapping, high performance driver education, instructing, and that's how I stayed in the community. I also had my HPDRE group, so I was always focused on, building the community so that people had a place to hang out virtually between events and build that community and build new bonds so that they would have someone new to go spend time with at a racetrack that they may not have ordinarily been going to. But the itch came in 2021. I was like, you know what? We just came out of COVID. Life is short. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. Let's go buy the race car. And I was like, but the first thing I got to do is actually get into a race car. And the only way to do that, I thought, was to go back to the school that I couldn't go to back in 2013, kind of close that chapter, if you will, and open up another chapter and get into it. And so my biggest fear was, I've got 8 years of gap. What's going to happen? I reached out to my friend Dan Feldman. Dan he's a club race instructor. He was like, absolutely. He's like, I think you'll be fine. I reached out to Anthony Maganoli, who's a club race instructor, classroom instructor. He was like, Eric, you'll be totally fine. He's like, we'll make sure that we pave the way for you. And then I just had to go out there and perform.
Nice.
And that was interesting because I've been fast on Facebook, but that's all I'm fast on. And so what's very interesting is many other people knew me as this guy that's a man of the community, likes to be liked, is friendly and happy, but they don't know the competitive side to me, which if you've ever played a volleyball match with me, I yell, I scream, I pump my fist when I score a point, I taunt the other players, and no one's ever seen that to me. And so when I did the club race school, sure, I was taking in all this education, but that final like mock race, I was eviscerating people. I was setting picks. I was making people make bad decisions. I had people on my tail. Even my club race instructor was like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "I don't even know who that guy was out there." He's like, I've heard that you were fast, but I didn't actually see you being fast until I was on your tail and you didn't miss a beat." And he's like, "I would be honored to go race with you any day." And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I didn't really know how to feel except to say that it was an out of body experience, and it allowed me to be that super ultra competitive person that really is at my core.
What a great compliment that you received.
It was, yeah. And like, I'm going to do a call with him later today and tell him, that story. And granted, he already knows that story, but it was really nice to see and hear someone say, like, you know what, you belong.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the school, and then I want to talk about the AER race. So for someone that hasn't been to a club racing school or a driver school, what sort of things are they looking for you to master, for you to demonstrate in order for them to give you the thumbs up and say, you've got a comp license?
I think the biggest thing is being open to coaching, listening in the classroom, and then executing on what they just instructed you to do. Going out there on the track, showing calm confidence, being able to drive in super close quarters and not lose your cool, not fall back, not be unhinged at the wheel, so to speak, not crash, and stay on the track. Yeah. And I think as long as you are able to do that and, keep a level mind and calmness and not do anything stupid, I think you would have passed. I know that there were individuals at that event that said, like, I don't understand why I didn't pass. And it came down to their confidence and lack thereof. They thought they had it, but they didn't. And for me, being the guy that likes to be liked, I also didn't know what was going to happen. But the competitive Eric Kaul came out. And for me, it was like, I didn't even mind that, I've got, two cars 3 inches from the left and you know, 4 inches from the right. And I actually enjoyed that. I knew that, you know, close racing is safer than far away racing. So I was like, all right, when I'm on the far right coming into, you know, the left-hander, I just stayed glued to this guy in the center.
Mm-hmm.
If I was on the inside, I stayed glued to the guy on the right. And they encouraged you to try things. And I was like, hey, I want to go try things, because if I don't try them in this pressure state, I won't know how to do it in a race.
Absolutely. So we don't get many folks on that have raced in AER. So if you could, Eric, and you've raced in other environments, tell us about AER. What makes it different? What makes it maybe better? What recommendations would you have that someone that enjoys endurance racing, when should they look at AER?
So I'll tell you right now, it's all about community. Whether you go with AER, with Lemons, Champ Car, Lucky Dog, whichever club, World Racing League, each of them has their own community. Each of them has their own, you know, type of people. My HPDRE groups was always intended to bring people together from all the different groups and make them realize that you're not a WRL guy, you're not an AER guy, you're not a Champ Car guy, you're an HPDRE guy or gal. Like, we are one community, and it doesn't matter which club you go to, you're always going to be an HPDRE person. Like, our folk, you know, like the fact that you share this enthusiasm just like I do, it doesn't matter where you go. So I would say that if you're a Champ Car, you know, enthusiast, great. You could go to a Lucky Dog race. You can go to an AER race. You can go to a WRL race. You know, you have it within you to race at all of these venues and all of these clubs. So, you know, the difference, you know, what makes the difference between AER and Champ Car? I guess, you know, it depends on the car that you build. Or if you're a renter, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Whoever has a spot open, go race with them. You're going to have a great time.
So you rented a seat that first weekend. Tell the listeners what it's like to rent a seat. What should they look for? How do they choose the right seat to rent? You know, some of that's team, some of it's car, some of it's experience level. But what's your opinion on that?
So I'm always going to say that as a big guy, I'm 6'5", with shoes on 6'6". You got to go where you can fit in the car. And I was really lucky that the team that I rented with was accommodating to that. I knew that they weren't trying to win; they were just trying to give me an experience. And so they put a special seat in there for me so that I could strap in and, you know, and go race. And for me, that made the difference. That made the huge difference. When I ended up forming my own team, I put a big seat in there, and I was hopeful that people would kind of jump in and rent seats from us, which they did. But they always had to accommodate to my much larger size. I mean, we had one guy that was like 5'7" on the team. And like I said, I'm 6'5". Mm-hmm. So we made it work without sliders, but we made it work. And I would say that if you're going to go rent with somebody, go talk to the previous renters. You know, all of this stuff is available on social media nowadays. You can Google it, you can go Facebook, you can ask, you know, what the team's history is. Because I will tell you that after my AER race, I was like, oh my God, let me go try Lemons. And I wish I had done more research on the team, because I gave a deposit for the team. The guy sounded like a great guy. You know, leading up to the event, he was like, hey, I'm all about training you to you know, get into the car and get out of the car. I'm trying to give you an experience. He's like, I want you to have a terrific Lemons experience. When he showed up to the race, he had 2 cars and neither of them worked. Oh. And I remember it to this day, and I'm not going to name names, but I remember it to this day. He reaches into his car, he throws all of his tools out of a bag, and they land on the pavement. And I'm like, is this real life? Like, I'm looking around, and I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. And I'm like, are these cars, are they ready to go? And he's like, nope. And so he took one car out to tech, and it failed tech. Took the second car, that failed tech, and then he was like, okay, we're going to go fix this stuff on the site. And was able to get one car to pass tech, but the other one didn't. So then he was like, all right, I'm going to take the fire system out of this car and I'm going to put it into this other car before the race to get it to pass tech. Took it to tech, they passed it, and then he took the system out of that car and put it into the second. And I was like, what is going on here? He's like, oh, you don't need to have a fire suppression system to race. And I was like, dude, stop. Just stop. And that was an experience and a half.
How'd that weekend end up? Did you end up racing or just taking your money and running?
I don't remember. If I'm being honest, I think I did like half a stint before the car broke. Maybe a full stint, but none of the other teammates got to race, and we were just livid. Oh yeah, because what was promised to us and what we actually received were two very different things. And to pay $1,500 for a lemon seat in cars that don't run, and mind you, I paid for myself. I also paid for somebody else, and I sponsored somebody, and both of us got shortchanged by a lot. Yeah. And what was interesting is many people said, oh, you rented with so-and-so. I wish I had said something. And it wasn't one person. It wasn't 5 people. It was like 25 people. I wish you had asked me about that person. And so now, having gone through that experience, I know what I would tell other people, which is do your due diligence. Just because it's cheap, just because it sounds too good to be true, go get recommendations about these individuals. And that's the beauty of social media. Oh yeah. The sad truth about social media is nobody wants to hurt someone else's feelings. No one wants to talk bad about bad experiences. And that's really, it's a sad situation, but people need to talk about this stuff. Of all the racing you've done to date, what's your most memorable experience, or what are you most proud of? I will give you the most memorable experience, which is to say, if the tires look brand new, but the date code says 7 years old, don't race on them. Oh, tell me the story about that one. So it was our team, and I apologize, Jason, I'm throwing you under the bus here, but my best friend Jason was our crew chief. Jason's like, I've got these matched tires, and they're BFG Rival 1.5s. They're going to be great. And I was like, how old are they? And I never got an answer. So I go out in this race. I'm driving in this car. It's like 50 degrees. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I don't know how to drive here. This car doesn't brake. It doesn't turn. It's like sliding around. I feel like I'm autocrossing on ice, which, by the way, I've done. And it's scary if you're on a racetrack with cars that actually know what they're doing. I didn't go more than 3/4 of a lap before, and this is at VIR. I literally left the pavement because I couldn't steer the car. And I want to say that I got hit by somebody, or maybe I hit them. I went off the track. I limped the car back in, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, what is going on? Like, I literally questioned at that point, like 14 years of driving experience. I'm like, maybe I'm not meant to race. And actually, you know what? I didn't break the wheel. Someone else took the car out, and they were like, oh my God, this is terrible. Like, this is not good. And then they brought it in, and we were like, maybe it's the tires. They're like 7 years old. Oh. And so I quickly learned that even if they look good, you should never put on old tires onto a new car. No. Did you guys have a spare set you were able to throw on? And oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And so that was the thing. When they put on the new set of whatever tires, I was like, this is amazing. We have amazing grip. This is tons of fun. But for that period when I was just kind of sitting in the pits, I was like, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't race. I asked you before the show what your 2026 racing goal was, and you want to get at least one Champ Car race in. Do you have an event in mind or a track in mind? I don't. The reason I want to do Champ Car is, I'm a series sponsor. I've been a sporting sponsor for the last few years, but now I'm the Class C sponsor. And so I'm like, hey, you know what? Let me go race probably in Class C with my name on the car. I've got tons of clients in Champ Car. Many of them have said like, hey, come race with me. We would love to have you. My goal has been to lose a ton of weight in the last year. Been fighting some health issues over the last few years, but this has been a good year. And when I get back to my former self, former size, I'm excited to go race. So one race would be 1 2-day race would be ideal. And it really, for me, it's going to be like when I get down to size that I'm happy. Like I'm happy right now. My goal right now is to compete in a volleyball tournament, at least one. And so then after that, I'm going to go racing.
Awesome. Well, the Radar Racing Team, front wheel drive Neons. We have a driver that's taller than you by a couple inches. Seat on sliders. Tracks close to you are going to be Lime Rock and Pocono. So we'll have to keep that in mind.
Oh my God. Like the answer is yes, let's do it. I will pay whatever your rental fee is.
$1 million.
I can handle half of that.
Yeah. As Josh, the producer, says, the decimal point's just in the wrong place on that.
It is in the wrong place. And if it's raining, I think we're going to win.
There we go.
I have always been like super fast in the rain. Rain doesn't scare me at all. And so, I mean, I remember being at Lime Rock in the rain at a TT, I think, and doing extremely well because the grip is the grip.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Do you have a secret in the rain?
Yes, I do. And I learned this from Elavan Goulart, who is the president and owner of a Sports Car Driving Association, SCDA. And God, I hope no one's listening to this when I say this, but he said, and by the way, his wife has said he is the fastest in the rain. So one day I asked him, hey, what's the trick? And he said, heat up the barrels. I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, drag the brakes, heat up the brakes will heat up the inside barrels of the wheels, getting your tires hot, getting the brakes hot. So when you go into that first turn, you can outbrake everybody. He's like, and then you've got warm tires and you take off to the races.
Interesting.
I was like, that's interesting. So I've tried it. It works. That's the trick.
While we're still on motorsports, a couple more topics before we talk about, I want to talk about health and fitness, and then we're going to go into your business. But while we're still on the topic of motorsports, Motorsports Safety Foundation, you've been on the board. Are you still on the board?
As long as they let me sit on the board.
That's awesome. So
I will tell you right now, I'm on those conference calls every month, and every month I'm like, oh my God, I'm the imposter here. I look around, you've got Ross Bentley, who's, needs no introduction. You've got Scott Elkins, who's the race director for Formula E, who's also the president. You've got Eric Meyer, who needs no introduction, chief instructor for NASA Great Lakes, Instructor Summit. Chuck Tucker, who wrote the book literally on classroom HPD education. We've got Greg Haas, who is the Summit Point Training Facilities motorsports director and classroom instructor and runs, Friday at the Track. We've got Rod Sussman, who's extremely well known in the vintage racing, in vintage racing world. And what Ross tells me all the time, and reminds me because I do have that imposter syndrome, he's like, you're the glue that brings the community together. He's like, everybody knows Eric Kaul, and if you don't, you will. So I'm like, all right, let's do that.
Yeah. So explain in a sentence, what does a Motorsports Foundation do? Motorsports Safety Foundation.
Our Motorsports Safety Foundation is right now focused on instructor training schools. So certifying instructor training schools to meet our minimum standards. And those minimum standards were created by the MSF Council. So 7 organizations that lent their best practices, so to speak, on instructor training schools. And so what MSF has done over the last 3 years is certify clubs, instructor training schools to meet our level 2 standards, but then also create level 3 and then additional accreditations for instructors. So basically, like HP drivers have a ladder 1, 2, 3, 4, we're doing the same thing for instructors, creating that continuing education for them. One thing that and so that's been our primary focus for the last 7 years. The next focus is going to be on certifying organizations to meet safety standards for what HPD programs should be.
That is great. You know, when you have standardization and you have certification and things like that, it helps the entire community, all the organizations involved, just rise up and make things better. So on behalf of all listeners and everyone in motorsports, thank you for volunteering your time to be part of something so cool and so helpful.
It's only because I'm left unsupervised that I can do this stuff.
That's awesome. Let's talk about fitness and
sure.
And nutrition. And you were on Ross Bentley's podcast, and you had said that he asked you what your speed secret was, and it says, get your fitness and nutrition under control. And you mentioned earlier in this episode, you've been on a journey of getting in better shape and losing weight. Why do you think nutrition and fitness is so important in our sport?
In our sport. So as I've spoken to, I'm putting my business in the forefront for just a second. So one of the reasons I have access to a lot of these racers and high performance drivers is because people come to me for video streaming their in-car activities. And so I often have a chance to talk to them as racers. And I ask them all the time, like, what separates you from, let's say, a novice, or let's say an experienced amateur racer? And they always say, my nutrition and my fitness. They are drinking water all the time. They are constantly eating the right foods. They're trying to keep their mind clean because it all comes down to mindset. That's how they're going to beat the guy next to them. If they know that their focus is on nutrition, you don't have sugar slowing you down. You don't have, because sugar is a psychedelic. If you've ever eaten a piece of cake or eaten too much cake the night, before you go to sleep, I guarantee you're going to have some crazy, crazy dreams. Well, that also affects you during the day. It makes your mind wander. And if you're racing, you don't want your mind to wander. You want to be super dialed in, super focused. You want to allow your unconscious competence to take over so that when things go bad, as they inevitably do, your razor sharp reflexes and your razor sharp programming is ready to respond without you thinking about it. So the nutrition will take you off your game. If you're not properly hydrated, hour and a half, 2 hours into the stint, you're going to get fatigued. So all of this has to be dialed in. And that's really what separates the best drivers away from the decent drivers.
Yeah. And you make mistakes when you're tired, when you're distracted, when you're not feeling 100%. That's safety for you and others.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned your own journey. Are you willing to share how much weight you've lost?
So I've lost a lot of weight over the years.
Yeah.
And what I don't talk about on social media, and maybe I should, is that I live with an autoimmune disease, and I live with the after effect of long COVID. I live with a brain tumor that I've had for 32 years. And I'm only recently finding out that the medications that I've been taking for that brain tumor cause a whole lot of other issues. And we only found this out because people are doing bike rides and they're doing, raising money for research in all these different fields. One of them being this brain tumor that I have. Jason, who's my best friend, ironically has the same exact tumor that I have. I never knew about this until about 6 or 7 years ago, but he had the surgery. I didn't. And a lot of the issues that affect him don't affect me, but there's a few issues that do, and it wreaks havoc on the body and our ability to lose weight when we want to, put on muscle when we want to, operate on a daily basis. It controls our mind. All of these issues control our mind. So I can only fight back with nutrition and fitness. And I don't know if I'm going to live until see tomorrow. So I really want to focus on giving myself the best chance to get to tomorrow. And I do that with my nutrition and my fitness. It is just crazy. And then I had cancer when I was younger too, and I had no clue how I got that. And I don't want it to come back.
Right. Wow. I didn't know all of that. Thank you for being so transparent and sharing that. And there's no doubt having the right fitness, the right nutrition, put you in the right mindset that, you can march forward and make yourself better.
Yeah. I mean, many people that have known me over the last 10 years knew that when I started my initial weight loss journey, I was 428 pounds. I lost 170 of it over the course of 2 years with nutrition and fitness. And the only reason I put it back on was A, I got long COVID. B, it triggered another autoimmune disease. A lot of people like to say like, oh, well, he lost his discipline. It's not that I lost my discipline. I was fighting my own body, and my doctors were trying everything they possibly could. And we started taking a medication about 12 months ago that took away all my pain. There are other side effects, but it has helped give me, a new lease on this life. I've been working with a nutrition coach and a fitness coach, my friend Colt. I met him through, ironically, Facebook, and and so he's been coaching me daily on, being present for my family, present for myself, present for my nutrition, allowing me to make mistakes. If I want to have the cake, I'm allowed to have the cake, but I've got to manage it. And then on top of that, I have volleyball coaches and volleyball community that keeps me focused on a weekly basis. I got to say that volleyball has really helped me stay super focused on being healthy, because I know that I've got to perform 3 times a week, and I can't do it without having great nutrition and great fitness.
Well, I know volleyball is big for you because you posted on Facebook. Your son's
a little bit,
just a titch, and you guys are in airports all the time, traveling for your son's volleyball career as well. What is it about volleyball you love?
If I'm being honest, it's the closest I can get to the unconscious competence, that flow state that I get from racing, and do it once, twice, 3 times a week. Like it's the addiction that there's no program to wean yourself off of racing. The same thing. There's no way to wean yourself off of volleyball when you know that you can get into that flow state, which many of us that have experienced flow state, and I'm sure you do this all the time. You're talking on the phone, you leave your house, you have a destination to go to, you're on the phone. Before you know it, you're still talking to your friend, but you're now at your destination, sitting in the parking lot and saying like, how did I get here? And that unconscious competence, that programming from having done that drive so many times is in effect, that's the knowing that you were in flow state. Sure. And so for me, I love talking to people while I'm driving. I'm doing this from my car because this is where I have and enjoy flow state the most. But for me, for volleyball, getting into that flow state is the addiction that knows no bounds. And so my son has gotten that same addiction because he's experienced flow state. My daughter, same thing. She's into volleyball too because she's addicted to that flow state that she experiences.
That's awesome that you have that repetition throughout the week. You have that community with the other players and the other teams. How does that fit in? How does that fit in with the accountability of coaching? Because I think it's important that we all have coaches in our lives, whether it's a performance coach, a business coach, a health coach. How does everything work together with the volleyball and then also your fitness coaches to give you an ultimate plan on fitness?
So the key is I want to hit certain milestones. And in order to hit those milestones, I need to perform according to a base plan. Coach Colt gives me, so I've told him, I'm like, I want to jump 4 inches higher. In order to do that, I've got to get into the gym, and at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, we need to focus on leg exercises. And we track it using an app. We track, how much weight I've done. We track it week to week and, see the progress. And personally, I've seen the progress because I'm jumping, 2 inches higher, 3 inches higher. And people are telling me like, wow, you're hitting the ball harder. You're jumping, you're anticipating the ball. Just actually 2 days ago, I came in second place, at our Kings and Queens at Wednesday Night Volleyball. Out of 40 people, I came in second place. Like, I scored 117 points. I was like, this is amazing. I can't believe this. And it's because of my coaches that I've improved my technique, and then staying focused on my health and fitness and my nutrition. I've been able to perform at the highest level.
That's great.
And it just gets better and better.
Yeah. Before we move on to the business side of things, I do want to talk about fitness just a little bit more. So sure. In order to help others, you created HPDE Fit, a Facebook group that allows individuals to interact, share ideas. I think I've seen some recipes on there. Again, another great example of you helping to build community, helping you get more folks involved. Has that page done what you wanted it to do? Does it have somewhere else to go? And I also want to hear a story about some great aha moment from that.
Absolutely. So I created that. And so back up the truck. I created a group on Facebook called High Performance Driving and Racing Enthusiasts, and the acronym being HPDRE. We created a marketplace for our members of, mind you, a secret group to go sell and buy from each other. That membership group has grown exponentially. Over the years, I was like, how do I keep people in the community? So I created this fitness and nutrition group, not just to chronicle my journey, but to encourage others to chronicle their journey within the group. It has not been super active over the last 3 to 4 years, but just a few days ago, one of my friends from HPDRE said, like, Eric, do you mind if I start posting this group? Like, I want to start losing weight. I want to get fitness. I want to get focused on health again. And I'm like, absolutely. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start posting that group as well. So while we may not have been focused for the last few years, it is absolutely going to get back on board. And one of the cool things we used to do in that group, I don't know if you know Mo Dodka, he lives in Illinois. He would host weight loss 30-day, 60-day challenges. And the focus really was to get people active for 30 minutes a day, 4 times a week, and show his selfies that you've been to the gym and, taken the selfies at the treadmill or at the weights or at the swimming pool, and just get people focused on just being their best self. And then, and many people won, money from the group. I through HPDRE Fit, I sponsored people's entries just because I wanted to, get people to do it again. I'm going to do it again. I'll start tomorrow. I'll start today. Today is better than starting tomorrow.
That's right. Oh, that's great. And just so you know, everything we talk about today that has a link, we're going to share it in the show notes for the listeners, so they can go there, easily find these Facebook groups, and also what we're about to talk about next, and that is your business. And a nice segue into there is, listeners, you probably know Eric Kaul because he's on Facebook all the time. Everyone's talking about him. He does so much. I want to know, does being on Facebook and posting help drive awareness for what you're doing, help you grow the business?
I'm always going to say yes, it does. I learned long ago in my accounting career that if you don't toot your own horn, nobody else will. And if you don't promote what you're doing when you're doing it, no one knows you exist. You might as well just be dead. The number of people I tell all the time, I'm like, you need to be on Facebook. They're like, no, I hate social media. It's like, listen, if you want to grow, you need to do something different. If you're uncomfortable with social media, this is the surefire way to growth. You got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So is Facebook bad? Is social media bad? Maybe it is. But here's your opportunity to grow, and I'm going to show you how to do it.
I love it.
My content posting on social media is not necessarily for me. It's because I see maybe there's a lull in activity, and let me get people going. I did it yesterday. Perfect example. I was like, show me your cars, show me your trucks, show me your tow vehicles, show me your trailers, show me anything with wheels. And I had 374 people comment on my personal page. So I was like, all right, this works, because I had people that were like, wow, cool race car. Oh my God, this is my race car. And so they started interacting on my post with people they don't know. This morning, I was like, all right, this worked. Let me go and post it on our main page. And I shared that to like all the major endurance groups. And I'm like, here's my idea. Take it and post it on your page and get people to start talking positively about people they enjoy. Because right now, there's a lot of negativity in the world. But if we can use social media to be positive, let's do it. One thing you'll notice about my social media is that it's very little negativity, if any at all. I'm always trying to be the person that is positive. I try to be inspiring, encouraging. I want you to be your best self. I don't want you to live in negativity. Maybe that's bad. I don't know. But I try to eliminate all the toxicity in my life. When people troll me, I'm like, you know what? I don't need you in my life. Delete, block, gone. I don't need to waste my time, because I can make more money. I can't make more time.
No. So better call. I love it. And I love the imagery you put behind that. Let's talk about the business. And I'm going to kick this off with a personal story. So listeners, I've had Verizon service pretty much last decade. And I have a business account, and we have 4 lines on that. And I always just did things online. And I was like, we got connected with Eric again because we got some Racekeeper Connects that need to be provisioned. And I thought, you know what? Why don't I have Eric take a look at my account? And Eric, you found that we were on the wrong plans. We weren't getting the sort of data service we needed. I was long overdue for an updated phone, which I knew, but I was just living with it. You found so many ways to get us better plans, better devices, better service. And I wish I would have had you. Lower cost. Yes. So thank you for that. So tell the listeners more about your business. What is it? What do you do? Who do you do it for? And how do you do it?
Yeah. So before I talk about this business, this wireless aspect of my business, I got into motorsports as a side hustle. I was a CPA from 2011 to 2013. In 2010, I had this idea of like, hey, let me monetize my relationships. I love connecting people to other people. I love giving them something without expectation of return. And, a company came to me and said like, hey, we'd like to put our decals on your car. I was like, fantastic, let's do it. I found out a little bit more about their business, and I'm like, hey, if I give you clients or I refer clients to you, like, would you be willing to pay me a commission? They're like, absolutely. More business? What's not to love? We'll cut you in. And so I did that with that company. And then I went to another company, and I'm like, hey, I wonder if I can go to like Turner Motorsport. And so I reached out to Turner, and they're like, oh my God, we know you, Eric Kaul. You're such a great community leader. We have tons of people that come to us and said, we heard about you from Eric Kaul. And so I picked up clients like them, Ariel Adam, Bear Connor to Ariel Adam, D-Force Wheels, and just picked up a number of brands. And so that is what started that business. I became essentially a broker. I linked up with Driving Impressions, Bob Zecca. He taught me the ropes, introduced me to a slew of people in motorsports, and I started selling safety equipment as his partner. Pivoted the business to wireless because people would tell me, I don't need an AIM system. I can just get Harry's lap timer for $10 and that's it. I'm done. Like, I don't need to spend $400. And so I had the epiphany of, let me pivot my motorsport clients to something that they absolutely need. It could be nutrition, it could be fitness, it could be coffee, it could be wireless. And so that was where the light bulb went off. I'm like, hey, you know what? Let me go link up with somebody I know. So I went to a former client, tax client of mine. He was like, hey, I've got 7 stores. You could be a great asset to me. Why don't you refer people to me? And I was like, no, that's not going to work. I need control of my relationships. And he's like, great, fantastic. And so we inked a deal to work together. I started looking at people's accounts. I'm like, hey, you can save money by being on this plan. I can get you, great service. And they're like, well, how do I repay you? And I'm like, oh, well, when you go and buy a phone, give me a chance to sell you the phone. And so that's really how it took off. In 2019, I hooked up with Autosport Labs. Brent Picasso gave me an opportunity to give him SIM cards to activate and create a great user experience for his customers. Up until that point, they were giving away free Freedom Pop SIM cards, which were basically free service, but the service was garbage. And when people went to the racetrack, they wanted to get clean data, but they couldn't get it if they had an unclean connection. So I put them on the Verizon network for $10 a month. And I created all these business accounts for people. And they're like, this is amazing. Like, you just saved me. Forget about the time. Forget about the money. You saved me time. Like, I get to the racetrack, I'm getting clean data. I didn't waste the $10,000 day or the $3,000 test day because of this. And so that's kind of how the name went out there. And after Autosport Labs came other companies. James Candelaria from the Sentinel put me on the map with World Racing League. Our friends at Racekeeper put me on the map for SCCA. My Races Live has now put me on the map for Champ Car and Lucky Dog. And then, of course, me just helping people in the community through that knew me as an instructor, knew me as the owner of HPDRE. I said, hey, Eric, we want to give you a chance. So look at my account and see what you can do. And so I kind of became known as the wireless bill crusher. And that's kind of how it took off. And so here we are today. I have clients in all 50 states, business and consumers. I've got a fulfillment center in Indianapolis. We've got 10 people there that handle my daily sales. My partners and I, we have 5 stores in Rhode Island with a 6th opening up next month. And my goal is always to deliver that type of service that you wish you were like, you want to be the guy that you wish you were buying from. Mm-hmm. And so I try to be that guy.
Well, again, from a personal perspective, super impressed with how you handled things, how quickly things handled, how they got done, 0 issues. And I'm sure there's listeners that will go into a wireless store, they'll get a billing change, they'll get this done, and it's not right. And then they're on hold forever trying to get it fixed. And you get it done right the first time. That's awesome.
Well, I will say that it helps that my last name is Kaul, right? Not a single person ever grows up and says, I want to go work in a wireless store. Like, that just doesn't happen. And for me, like, I resisted going to work for Verizon because I was like, oh, that's beneath me. I'm a white collar CPA. That's literally how I lived my life. And then I quickly realized that, you know what, I've got this great last name. Let me enjoy it. Let me use it. Let me be the trusted advisor that I used to be as a CPA, and let me be that trusted advisor for wireless and home phone and video streaming and somewhere, in the motorsports community, and do it in such a way that no one else is competing with me, and be in a league of my own. And, to this day, there are other people that try to do what I do, but no one can do what I do. And not to the extent that I do it.
No. And you can help people one line personal, big business account lines, devices in their cars, wireless hotspots.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I even look at people's bills on T-Mobile and AT&T, and I'm like, you're overpaying for all these devices. Like, why don't you go back to T-Mobile and cut these bills down? And people are like, that's amazing. Like, no one ever thought to do that. I do that for Verizon customers. I do that for anybody.
And what's the best way if people want to connect with you on that? How do they get a hold of you?
Sure. You can give out these logos that people can flash into the sky, and I will see the I will see the link. No. People can send me a message on Facebook. I'll give you my contact info. If you're a Champ Car racer, you're going to see, my ads in the paddock because now I'm sponsoring the club. And but no, I can give the information out. One thing I say to everybody in motorsports, I will bend over backwards for you. But if you're outside of motorsports, you can go to the local store.
That's awesome. Thanks for doing that for our community. And I think a couple weeks ago you posted something at the racetrack, had your banner on it. I loved it. It looked awesome. So I can't wait to see that in the Champ Car paddock as the season goes on. And so everyone that's in C class is going to have a little decal on their back bumper
and front bumper,
front bumper that has your logo on it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And people ask me all the time, like, why Champ Car? And Champ Car was literally the first club that we went to for our team. And so when we stopped racing, like, I still loved the great relationships I had from Champ Car. And I was like, I got to give back to this wonderful community. Bill Strong and I have been friends for the last 10 years. Loved his energy. And I just said, I'm like, I want to support these guys. And they gave me a wonderful opportunity to come in inexpensively a few years ago. And, and now that I've moved up to the Class C sponsorship after one of my clients decided not to sponsor them this year, I was like, oh my God, I would love to see my name on people's cars. That was actually the goal for the last 10 years, which was be able to be well off enough to give back to this community and see my name on someone's race car.
I think that's great. So we're getting towards the end of the episode here. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to?
Oh man, let's see. My advice.
Oh, that's right.
If I had to give advice to anybody, it would be go meet someone that you haven't met before. And the easiest way to do that is to say, hi, my name is Bill. Hi, my name is Eric. What's yours? Do it with a smile. People will resonate. People will respond. You'll make new friends. You never know where this life's journey is going to take you. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. So go make a friend and do it today.
What's the best motorsports advice you've received?
What is the best motorsport? Smooth is not fast. Smooth is just you being slow. What is the best motorsports advice? Let's see. Best motorsports advice. That's interesting. I didn't even actually think about that one. I for me, it's not about motorsports. It's about life. Mm-hmm. It's about meeting people. We spend a majority of our life alone. We wake up alone. We go to sleep alone. We usually go to the bathroom alone. Usually, unless you're unless you're at the racetrack, then you have a trough to go piss with friends.
This is true.
But for the most part, you're alone, and I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone with that voice in my head. So I just go say hi to people, and live this life with community, because it's more fun to do that with people than without. Agreed.
So it's time for the last question. Have you ever been late to grid?
Which grid? All the grids? Yes, absolutely.
Is there a good story about one time you were late?
Oh my God. One time I was late. So it was an autocross event in New Brunswick, Maine, and my son hid my glasses. This is probably like 10 years ago, and I couldn't find my glasses, and I needed my glasses to go downstairs and go drive to the event. So I was late by like 4 hours. But after that, I made sure to have a second pair of glasses all the time.
That's the latest somebody's been late.
Oh my God. And they let me, and they only let me they only let me drive because I was instructing that day. So that was kind of tough. And actually that was like 12 years ago now that I think about it. For the most part, I try to be not late to grid. I try to be, I don't want to be that guy that has to like drive through. Have you ever seen that video of like I was seventh?
I don't think so.
Oh, you got to check that out on YouTube. So this guy is he's late to grid. He's held up. He qualified as seventh. So what does he do? He drives through during the yellow flag at the beginning of the race to get to his position, and he literally is passing. And he's like, I was seventh. It was like 12 years ago.
I'll check it out.
I'll send it to you.
All right. Well, Eric, it was great having you on the podcast. Thanks for taking some time to talk about your journey, your business, how you're making our motorsports community even better. So thanks again for taking some time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today.
Eric and I could have talked for another 2.5 hours. His involvement in motorsports is continual. He seems to be everywhere. He is everywhere. And a few of my takeaways I want to recap with is it comes down to community. Motorsports is not an individual sport. Yes, we are the only one behind the wheel, but it takes many people to get us on track. It takes many people to coach us to get us to where we want to be. And I want you to understand that when you have an opportunity, help build a community, help somebody, reach out and say hello to someone else at an event. That's something that if you read between the lines of what Eric said, to go and do that. I asked him for some of his advice. And if you heard him say towards the end of the show, go meet somebody you don't know, introduce yourself and say hello. Of course, do it with a smile. Another thing he talked about, nutrition and fitness. And if you've been a listener of the podcast for any length of time, we've talked about this. You have to be mentally and physically fit to be behind the wheel. They go together. And he said, nutrition and fitness equals mindset. And you have to have the right mindset. So you can do nutrition on your own. You can do it with the help of somebody else. If you need a coach, go and get one. Eric talked about working with one and how a coach helps keep us accountable and helps us reach our goals. I asked him for some feedback on some things he learned, and especially about getting the competition license and going through the driver school. And he said, you have to be open to coaching. You have to show confidence on track. So if you're newer in our sport, what that means is you can't go out there with a big ego and think just because you did really well in Forza, or you're crushing it on iRacing, or you're just the best person that came out of the karting program. You have to be humble. You have to be open to ideas. You have to be open to coaching. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. We need to use them in those proportions. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, because I really did. And I have a request. Share this episode with someone that maybe needs to get on the motorsports journey. Maybe they are on the motorsports journey and they need to get on the fitness journey. Oh, and if they need better wireless service, connect them with Eric. Do me one other favor. Don't be late to grid.